Check out to Pete Crofts.
The secrets to making people laugh.
Thank you, laugh mates. I hope you don't mind if I call you laugh mates. And g'day, 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 g'day. We're going to have some fun today. You'll probably notice that I move around the room a lot when I work. Now, I do this for two reasons. One, I like to get close to the audience, and the other, it's hard to hit the moving target. So if there's anybody... And I'll be using two forms of humour today, laugh mates. Some is funny humour and some is illustrative humour. Now, if you laugh, it's funny humour, and if you don't laugh, it's illustrative humour. So I will be using some of that illustrative humour, rest assured in that. What I'd like you to do, if you don't mind, please, laugh mates, I'd like you to fold your hands just like this, please. Okay, have a look down and see if your right thumb crosses your left thumb, that means you're a very sexy person. Have a look down, have a look. Now, if your left thumb crosses your right thumb, that means you're a very sneaky person. Now, have a look down and see if your thumbs are side by side. If they are, that means you're sneaky about sex. Anyone there at all? No? Okay. Studies show, I don't know, anyone here who has investigated the wonderful domain of humour? Anyone here who has dabbled into the delight of life and had a real good laugh lately? Just pop your hands up if you have. Fantastic. You know, it's not that hard to laugh. It's pretty easy to laugh. Studies were done about 6 years ago on babies that were born blind and deaf. They were born blind and deaf. Yet at the normal age, they were found to be smiling and laughing. So it's a biological instinct that we've all got inside us, but our environment tends to program us and push the fun, the humour, the joy, the laughter deeper and deeper and deeper inside. Wipe that smile off your face. Settle down and get serious. You can't laugh in church. You can't have any fun here at work. Anyone got any more? Just call them out. You're in the doctor's room, yes? You smile too much. What a beauty. That's it. Wow, act your age. Goodness. This is serious. Okay, now the list goes on and on and on. So what we're going to do, laugh mates, is we're going to have some fun. We're going to laugh in many, many ways, but we're going to laugh for no reason. It's not that difficult to do. Okay? I'll show you how it's done. I'm going to go ha, and I want you to go ha back to me. Then I'm going to go ha ha, and I want you to go ha ha back to me. Okay, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Ha! Ha ha! Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! Come on! Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! Okay, very good, wonderful. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little game I call part of what we call Aussie Laughing Sports. We're going to do what we call follow the laughter leader. Now, I'm going to laugh a couple of ways, and I want you to follow the laugh that I laugh. Okay? And we start this way. Starts different every time. Oh! Got to jump up and down. Okay, very good. So, this is not difficult. But in times of stress, it can be quite difficult. You'll notice on the seat there, some of you will notice that you've got handouts. There's a couple of extra ones down the front here. What I've given you today, or what we're going to do today, is we're going to look at many, many ways of how we can learn to, first of all, laugh at ourselves, and then how we can make other people laugh. Handouts up the back there, please. Thank you. Most of the information there you will find in the product here. There's a 6-hour cassette tape, CDs here, which cover all the information on the handouts there. Anyone here have aspirations of becoming a professional humorist or using humour in their presentation? Just pop your hands up. Very good. Well, let me assure you that anyone in the room here tonight or this afternoon, if you wished to be a professional comedian, and I mean a professional comedian, I could train you to do that. I could train anyone in this room here to be a professional comedian. Anyone dispute that? Anyone disagree with that? Just pop your hands up if you would. And bankable. See, what we're talking about here, laugh mates, what we're talking about here is there's three basic reasons why people become professional comedians. Three basic reasons, okay? One is they'll do anything when they're young to get attention. Hey, Mum, look at me, no hands. Hey, Mum, look at me, no teeth. Hey, Mum, look at me. Look at me, Mum, look at me. That's the first reason. And each one of us have got some of that inside us. The second reason, and this is where I came in, the second reason is to basically, the second reason basically is to cope with life, to be able to handle the insults and put-downs of your classmates. Because when I was a young man, I was only very small. You probably noticed I haven't grown up much since. But when I was a young man, I had a big mop of wavy red hair. Unfortunately, it waved goodbye. I was dyslexic. I used to blush more than the school toilets flushed. And I admire your wonderful... Stand up and have a look at that beautiful curly hair. Look at that. Wow. Okay? Me, 50 years ago. And I was an introvert, but I wouldn't allow the bullies and I wouldn't allow the system to crush me into a corner. Being dyslexic, I wasn't that much fun in the classroom. So I'd go home at the end of the day, and instead of doing my homework, I'd write lines to protect myself. And I'd come to school the next day and I was ready. Is that your nose? You're eating a banana. You've got the type of face that grows on a person. I'm only glad it didn't grow on me. It's the little things in life that count, so why don't you use your head? As an outsider, what do you think of the human race? Why don't you come down to the bay on Saturday and I'll give you a lesson in drowning? I got pretty good. And as a matter of fact, I got real good. By the time I was 20, this is an incredible thing. People were saying I was a natural-born comedian. There's still a few in the room here now who think that. I wasn't a natural-born comedian. I'd learnt these skills to survive. I found out that if you can make somebody laugh, you can pick their pocket at the same time. Humour's a tremendous power. It's an incredible weapon. And I used it as a defence, as a way of protecting myself from the insults and put-downs of my classmates. Okay? That's the second reason. The third reason that people become professional comedians is that life, as you all know, is stressful. Now, this group normally becomes cartoonists or comedy writers. So instead of being an extrovert, they bring humour in and intellectualise all the problems that they have and cope with it in their mind. And as these three groups get older, they get better. As they get older, they get better. As they get older, they get better. And people were telling me when I was 20, you're a natural-born comedian. And for many, many years, I toured the country, ducking bullets and battling to throw a punchline. As a punchline to me in some of the places I worked was when I threw the tag of a gag and a right cross on the chin of a heckler at the same time. That was a punchline. I had years of that. I used to do 6 shows a night, 7 nights a week in some incredible places. I taught myself the skill, laugh mates. Anyone in this room here can learn the skills. And the handout here that we've got will be explained to you these basic skills of being able to make other people laugh. Now, we're talking about 2 skills. I notice the legend of the speaking industry down there, Joan Saxon. Would you all please give Joan a big round of applause? Thank you, Joan. So there's two basic skills. Wonderful. 1966, I think it was, Joan, wasn't it? 65. Fantastic. So there's two basic skills, what I call ha-ha skills. The first ha is humour attitude. In other words, being able to laugh at yourself. The second ha is humour action, being able to make other people laugh. Now, I learnt the first ha. I taught myself the first ha. I became pretty good at putting people down and throwing gags. And at the age of 30, I'm standing on stage one night, surrounded by men back from the war in Vietnam, soldiers, sailors, and army, not knowing whether or not they were going to live once they got back to Vietnam. So I'm in the room there, and it was a beautiful room, it was a magnificent room. There was glass mirrors all the way around the room. A lot of tension in the room, and I was getting big laughs. And of course, when you had an ego that needed it, that was what I lived for. I lived for those laughs. And then I caught sight of myself in the mirror. And I wasn't laughing. I wasn't laughing. I wasn't happy. Okay? I wasn't fulfilled. I was living my dream that I dreamt about when I was a 9-year-old kid, making people laugh. But it wasn't me, it wasn't who I was. And I saw myself, and I wasn't happy. Everyone else was laughing, but I wasn't. That night, when I finished the gig, I packed up and left Sydney, came to Melbourne, and I've spent the last 35 years studying that first ha, which is learning to laugh at yourself. Not taking yourself so seriously that you really think that you know how life operates. Now, let me share with you, laugh mates, that I haven't mastered that one yet. I'm still working on that one. But the first one, and of course we do run programs at the University on humour, laughter and health and healing, and a variety of other different programs along those lines, so that we can develop that perspective of being able to step out of yourself, look back, and have a real good chuckle at yourself. Like the 80-year-old man. You heard about the couple that were married. You heard about the one that rode the camel into the store. You heard all those old jokes. You've heard all those old jokes. It's a little story about a lady who took a little girl into town shopping one day. They're coming back in a taxi through St Kilda, and the little girl said, "Mummy, Mummy, what are all those single girls doing standing on the street corners?" And the mother said, "That's got nothing to do with you." And the taxi driver said, "Go on, lady." He said, "Tell her the truth." He said, "Little girl, they're women of the night, they're prostitutes, they make love for money." And the little girl said, "Is that right, Mummy? And if that is right, what do they do with their babies?" And the mother said, "Oh, they usually grow up to become taxi drivers." Do we have any taxi drivers in the room tonight? How about the couple on the train? She was in the upper berth and he was in the lower. She said, "Mister, would you get up and get me a blanket?" He said, "Where's your husband?" She said, "He's at home. Where's your wife?" He said, "She's at home." "Oh," she said, "that's good. Let's act like man and wife." He said, "All right, get up and get your own bloody blanket." So jokes, 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 jokes. How many people here have trouble remembering jokes? Just put your hands up, please. Okay, very good. How do you remember? How many people here know what 6 sixes are? Just pop your hands up, please. 6 sixes. Okay. So you remember jokes the same way as you remember mathematics. Practice, 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 practice. I used to spend hours, and I mean hours, a lifetime, learning those jokes to make a living. I was working in the butcher shop going to work one day to Mentone, and I'm in the train, and something funny happened on the train. There was an argument between people about the seat. I got to work, and I explained the situation to the butchers at work. They laughed. I explained it to some of the women in the shop, and they laughed. This is 1956. Some of you wouldn't remember that. A lot of you wouldn't remember that. I get home that night. 1956, I get home that night to Golden Avenue in Chelsea. I walk in the front door and the house is full of people. Mum and Dad had brought a television set that day, the first set in the street. The first set in the street. I walk in the door, the lounge room's full of people. They're all chatting, very excited about the little box in the corner. Me too. And would you believe, fate, laugh mates, fate, funny fate, the fickle finger of funny fate. The television was on, and believe me, the Steve Allen show was on. Some of you wouldn't remember him, but he's the Jay Leno of yesterday. The Steve Allen show was on, and he introduced a chap called Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby came out and told a story very similar to the story that I saw on the train and I told the people in the butcher shop. And I said, I can do that. I don't have to be a butcher all my life. I don't have to do what other people tell me to do. I can be me. And from that day on, I spend probably, well, let me put it this way. It's the only thing that makes any sense to me in life. Humour. It gives me a balanced perspective. It allows me to look at myself. I can be crying and laughing at the same time. And there's a good place for tears. It's very important place for tears. Let's have a look here on the front page there. You'll see on your worksheets there. I mentioned the term called business show. In my current book, this one here, How to Use Humour in Business and Life, the second last chapter is called Business Show. See, I don't believe anybody works for a living anymore, laugh mates. I believe we all think for a living. And nobody has a job anymore. Everybody is their own small business. You're your own small business these days. You need to see yourself as your own small business. Your intellectual property is what it's all about. And this is where it starts, in the developing a sense of humour and developing the importance of humour. Let me just throw these out to a couple of people in the audience. One up there, and one over there, and one up over there too, and one over there. Okay, would somebody open that checkbook? That's what we call them. We call them checkbooks. The lady down the front there. And would you come up? Give her a round of applause, please, laugh mates. Give her a round of applause.
Everything I am and everything I do is one. I am my product and soul. Every thought I have and every feeling I have has been given to me to earn from and learn from. I see my intellectual capital. Discover your meaning by reflective thinking. Write down your thoughts and feelings, then turn your meaning into merchandise, and then turn that merchandise into money, and then turn that money into other ways of expressing your meaning. All is one.
Thank you. Give her a big round of applause. That's what I've been doing all my life, laugh mates. From the time that I saw that happen in the butcher shop, I've been doing the same thing. My current book is called Live for a Living, How You Turn Your Life into Your Living. See, we've all got deep meaning inside us. And one of the beautiful things about national speakers is, of course, you see quite a lot of speakers who are actually being their meaning, living their meaning. Now, humour, if you're going to be a professional speaker, the bottom line is that you have to be able to use humour. That's the bottom line. We're all well aware of that. But let me tell you, it's more important to be able to laugh at yourself than it is to make others laugh. And we'll get back to that practical skill there before. So what I'm suggesting you do is that I'm suggesting that that little handout or that little notepad, I call those checkbooks. See, the universe works in wonderful ways, marvellous ways. Incredible ideas flash into our brain, but we're too busy talking to somebody to do anything about it. The idea is to get into the system of downloading that magic, writing it down. An individual idea on each page, nothing on the other side of the page. That's the process. What I encourage people to do is to go on humour walks. Anyone been on a humour walk lately? Yes? Well done. Now, a humour walk is where you walk out of the house, you give yourself 10 minutes, you're not looking for bargains, you're not looking to meet anybody, but you're looking to see the funny things that are happening out there on the street. Oh, and they're there. Life is chock-a-block full of them. All right, all you need to do, open your checkbook, write it down. You come home, that's the first step. The first step is writing down these thoughts and feelings, or a good joke that somebody tells you. Pop it down. So we've got to find the humour. That's what we have to do. We've got to be able to find the humour. Now, the second step is to start what I call a joke file. Okay? A joke file. Now, what we're going to discover today is we're going to discover that you'll probably notice on the front of that handout there, it's my belief that the jokes that have been told at the negotiating tables have possibly prevented nuclear war more than by any other means. Now, when I say that you can't be angry and laugh at the same time. Look at the lady who was being pestered by the Playboy type. Finally, she had enough. She turned around, she said, "My awareness of your proclivities in the entertaining aspects of physical behaviour precludes you from such erotic confrontation." He said, "I don't get it." She said, "Exactly." Okay? Now, what we've got here, anyone read Edward de Bono's wonderful book, I'm Right, You're Wrong? Okay, you have? Okay. Who would like to come up the front here and read a passage from this book for us? I think it's very important that we all become aware of this. Young man here. Give him a round of applause, please, laugh mate.
The whole lot, okay. Humour is by far the most significant behaviour of the human mind. You may find this surprising. If humour is so very significant, why has it been so neglected by traditional philosophers, psychologists and information scientists? Why humour is so significant and why it has been so neglected by traditional thinkers together form the key to this book. Humour tells more about how the brain works as mind than does any other behaviour of the mind, including reason. Keep going. Thank you very much. It indicates that our traditional thinking methods and our thinking about these methods have been based on the wrong model of information systems. It tells us something about perception which we have traditionally neglected in favour of logic. It tells us directly about the possibility of changes in perception. It shows us that these changes can be followed by instant changes in emotion, something that can never be achieved by logic. There are probably no more than 24 people in the whole world who would really understand at the most fundamental system level of brain mechanisms why I can claim such significance for humour. After reading this book, there may be some more who come to understand the basis for the claim and its implications for the future of society.
Give him a round of applause. Well read. Fantastic. Now, I believe that, laugh mates. I believe that. My dream is to see a university in every capital city of the world with 1 million people. We need it. As we move from capitalism into what's called cultural capitalism, as the global economy attempts to come together with a global economic base, the only way that's going to be done, it's not going to be done with serious talk. It's going to be done with play. It's going to be done with fun. So from that perspective, humour is vitally important. So there are skills that we learn and perspectives that we need to develop to be able to see that funny side. We can all learn these skills, as I mentioned to you before. So the first step is to jot down these comic ideas, okay? Let's just explore that for a moment. Is there anyone in the room in the last 15 minutes who has had a funny thought? Just put your hand up, please. Please, just call it out. What was it? This is what's called exaggeration. Give him a round of applause. Stand-up comedian. I could have you on stage within 6 months doing stand-up comedy, no problem. Anybody here, Laugh Mates, can learn these skills. Trust me, okay? It does take time. We've got to get rid of that old serious attitude and spend more time on the light-hearted attitude. So the first step is writing these concepts down. They're gold. They've been given to you for that purpose. The second step is to start a joke file. Okay? What we have here, can somebody tell me what this is? Well, good try. Good try. I call it the jokespy. And what I do is I flick it out and people catch it, then they come up and tell us a joke. Is there anyone in the auditorium today who would like to come up and claim the jokespy? Just walk straight up, please. Come up and tell us a joke. Anybody? Okay, thank you, sir. Give him a round of applause.
You know, you come to an intersection and you see these people wanting to cross the street, and they stand by the place and they push that button once, twice, 3 times. And the next one comes up and they do it again, once, twice. The next one comes up and pushes it once. I like that one. And someone else comes up and there's about 5 people standing there and they still come up and bash that thing to get across. I mean, why do they do it? Hit the button. Push the button. The trust is gone, my folks. Come up to that place. If there's 5 people there and say, you pushed the button. Last time I did it was an old lady and she hadn't pushed it.
Very good, thank you. So I'm suggesting, and of course I'm familiar with the old term, don't tell jokes. I'm familiar with that term, disagree with it entirely. Because when you study jokes, you understand the formulas that go into jokes, the techniques, the devices that create jokes. Very important for us to understand. These are the lateral thinking concepts that Edward de Bono was talking about. The formulas that go into creating jokes. All jokes come from a straight line of thought. All jokes come from a straight line of thought. Now, what we do is we can exaggerate that straight line of thought like the young man did there earlier. We can understate that straight line of thought. Or we can do another technique, which is what we call the interrupted catalogue. I've done 2 circles there. What do you imagine the third circle is going to be? A third circle. But no, instead, what do? We do this, which is called the interrupted catalogue. We've got the exaggeration. We take it a little bit further. We do surrealism. Up a little bit further, we do farce. Now, one of the great formulas is what's called the frustrated expectation. We tell people that we're going to get here, but we only arrive here. Story about the fella who took along a ladder to marry the girl on the 8th floor of a block of flats. The ladder wasn't long enough, so he eloped with the girl on the 2nd floor. His aspirations, the 8th floor. How much of our life is spent here, Laugh Mates? Just look at the frustrations that you have. Write them down. They're gold. They've been given to you for that purpose. I work with a comedian called Martin Ralph. Some of you might have heard of Martin. He's a regular on the corporate circuit. And Martin was a dinky-die Aussie. He represented Australia in 1984 at the Olympic Games in LA. And he went as a canoeist. But he raised money to go there by busking in the city mall. When he came back from LA, he heard that I train people to become comedians and entertainers. He came and saw me, and he said, look, I want to be a comedian, but I don't think funny and I can't tell jokes. And I said, is that right? He said, yeah. I said, okay. I had a mirror. I have a mirror in the university. I sat him down in front of the mirror, put a checkbook in front of him, pen in his hand, asked him to look at himself in the mirror and write, I'm now a very funny comedian who can write very funny jokes. He did that, and then I said to him, I said, how does it feel being a very funny comedian who can write very funny jokes? He said, fantastic. And I knew I had somebody that I could train. You know why? Because he'd already had a coach. At a 10-year-old kid, he just wandered past a canoeing workshop. Somebody spotted his potential. Now, I can see the potential in each one of you. Okay, I can see your potential. You're all comedians. You're all funny speakers. It's just a matter of opening it up and disciplining yourself. In other words, becoming humour conscious. Putting some humour deliberately into our lives. Now, one of the other basic techniques that we spoke about here is exaggeration, which is a wonderful technique. Another technique is this one here, which is the reversal, where you go all the way back. Another technique is what's called the round circle. Another technique is what's called frustrated expectation, which is that one, and this one's called mistaken identity, where you mistake that for that. Paul Hogan's 3 movies were based on that one formula, mistaken identity. These are basic techniques, laugh mates. They're ways to see life. They're ways to turn your funny ideas into jokes, to reinforce the messages that you have got, those serious messages that you live for, that get you up in the morning, that pump blood through your heart so you can hardly wait to get in front of an audience to tell them what you've learned about this magical universe. But as we all know, people don't want to be educated. They want to be entertained. They don't want to be educated. So that's the world that we're living in today, this 21st century. Now, this particular technique here is called exaggeration. Anyone here, I'm sure you're all familiar with Barry Humphries? Okay. Barry Humphries once said, I'm not a comedian, I'm a comic anthropologist. In other words, he said, I see the detail in life. I identify the detail. I see those little things. I take notice of those important little things. So what we're going to do now, anyone, some of you might be familiar, anyone in the audience who knows what this is? What is it, Mary? And what does it do, Mary? That's right. This is what we call the zone horn. Every time I toot it, I ask you to step out of your comfort zone into the embarrassment zone. Now, what I'm going to say now, laugh mates, I say with all sincerity. And I say this with all sincerity. If I had 3 seconds on international television in front of 6 billion people in the world, if I could give one message to all those little kids and all those adults and all those dreamers, that message would be, learn to be embarrassed and enjoy it. Learn to be embarrassed and enjoy it, because the moment you can learn to be embarrassed, there's nothing that you're frightened of attempting or trying. And the second thing, of course, is learn how to handle failure. See, the best thing we can ever hope to be in life, laugh mates, is successful failures. That's the best we can ever hope. Nobody gets out of life alive. That's the best thing we can ever hope to be, is successful failures. Because the moment you succeed, you're going to strive again, then you're going to succeed, then you're going to fail, then you're going to succeed, then you're going to fail, then you're going to succeed, then you're going to fail. Okay? And, of course, when you fail, when you tell a joke, basic fundamental principle to get laughter, if anyone's taking notes, pop this one down, you will find it in the handouts, is to build tension and to release tension. To build tension and to release tension. Every movie, every book, every play is based on the same thing, building and releasing tension. Now, what I learnt, I used to do this, the early show at the Motor Club up in Sydney, which was 9 o'clock. I'd do 20 minutes, which wasn't bad because I hadn't got on the poker machines and they weren't that drunk. Then I'd come out at 11:30 and I'd have to do 40 minutes. Most of the people there have partnered up and gone, and the people who were scattered around the room Some of them were asleep and the others were finding it hard to sit up. And I had to do 40 minutes in front of people at 11:30 at night. I learnt quite a lot of techniques to be able to build and release that tension. So the basic principles that I teach at the university is that if you do a joke and the joke doesn't get a laugh, you do what's called a saving line. If the saving line doesn't work, you do what's called a dying line. If the dying line doesn't work, you do what's called an audience insult dying line. What are you drinking out there, chloroform? Did you people come here for entertainment or revenge? Now, if the audience insult dying line doesn't work, you do a dying with dignity line. If the dying with dignity line doesn't work, you do a desperate dying line. If the desperate dying line doesn't work, you do a self-put-down identity line. There's 23 different techniques that we've learned. Okay, we need these. These are gear shifts, laughs mates, to be able to build that tension and to get those chuckles coming. We need to have it. We need to have it. It's very important. So let's try one of these techniques. Let's try the technique of being able to step out of our comfort zone. This is what I call the Onkaparinka, this one. The Onkaparinka. On the count of 3, I'd like you all to shout as loud as you can. The secret to life is being embarrassed and enjoying it. 1, 2, 3. The secret to life is being embarrassed and enjoying it. Thank you. Thank you. When I spot you, I've got something special for you. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to play a little game here. Just turn to the person to your right, turn to the person to your left, and introduce yourself and say, I'm your laugh mate for this session, we're going to have some laughs. Okay, very good. Now what we're going to do, laugh mates, is we're going to pair off. We're going to pair off with our laugh mate. And the way it works is this is a skill that we developed called observing, Onkaparinkaing, observing, seeing the tiny little detail in life. So when I toot the zone horn, I'm going to get everybody to stand up and face one another. You're going to take it in turns of who's going to go first. You'll both do this at the same time. I want you to look at one another up and down and identify all the aspects of what they're wearing, how their hair is, what glasses they've got on. Then I'm going to toot the zone horn a second time, and you're going to turn your backs on one another, and you're going to change 3 things about yourself. Then I'm going to toot the zone horn again, and you're going to turn around and see if you can identify those 3 things that your laugh mate changed. Okay? So we'll take a couple of minutes to do that. All right, so would everybody please be upstanding? Pick out your partner. Face one another. Face one another. Get involved here. That's it. Okay, now observe one another up and down. Choose who's going to go first. Observe everyone up and down. Identify all the things about them. Have a look at their shoes, their hair, their lapel. Okay? All right, now turn your backs. Turn your backs and change 3 things about yourself. Turn back to back. Turn back to back and change 3 things about yourself. Yep, everyone does that. Turn back to back, change 3 things about yourself. Okay, and when I toot the zone horn, I want you to turn around and see if you can pick the 3 things that everybody has changed. Somebody's got something funny sitting on their head down there. Okay, all right, let's go. Let's turn around and see if we can pick those. Doing very well over the back there. Down the front here, got 2. Okay, very good, laugh mates. Who got 3? Hands up all those who got 3. Okay, 3 here. Up the back there, 3. Yep, very good. Okay, thank you very much, Laugh Mates. Take a seat, please. Thank you. Very good. What a group. What a great group. Okay. What did we learn from that one, Laugh Mates? What did we learn from that one? Just call out. Observation. Major technique. A major technique. So when we're going on that humour walk of a morning, we're going on a humour walk every morning, right? Okay? Every morning we're going on that 10-minute humour walk. We have our checkbook with us. And anything funny we see, we write down. We observe. We get into the detail of it. Then we start our joke file. We read jokes. We study jokes, because the jokes we study and the jokes we read are different ways of seeing life. We start to understand these. We come back, we have a look at the funny thing that we saw, then we go and look at these techniques, and then we pump it up and make it funnier and funnier and funnier. And before you know it, you've turned that experience or that humour walk into a piece of comedy gold, into a piece of humour that really works. The next thing we do, there's basically 2 types of jokes, or 2 types of humour. One is the joke, and the other is truth humour. Now, I've trained people like Elliot Goblet, Tim Smith, Tracy Bartram, Russell Gilbert, Dave Grant, and a whole host of other stand-up comedians, as well as some very high-profile speakers, a few politicians, radio announcers, celebrities, quite a lot of trainers, quite a lot of teachers. And it's getting into the system. It's enjoying laughter. One young fella's doing my program now, and this guy's going to be a killer. And yet he can't speak very much English. He's an Italian boy. He's 22 years of age. 22 years of age. And this young man, in the next 5 years, he's going to be all over the place. Let me tell you, one of the things I get the young comedians to do is I get them to get what's called flying time. And what this young man does, he gets up every morning, drives out to Ferntree Gully Railway Station, parks his car, gets into the train. Normally it's an express, about 15 people sitting on the train. The moment the doors of the train close, he stands up and says, "Good morning, I'm your comedian for the trip." Dead set, okay? And then he starts telling jokes all the way to Flinders Street. Gets out of Flinders Street, gets the next train back, and of course the shift workers are on the train, and some of them are a little tired, so he does what's called close-up comedy. "G'day, mate, how are you? What's your name?"
My name's Blake.
Blake, what a fantastic... I used to know a bloke named Blake. He was in the joke that I'm going to tell you now. And then he'd tell jokes, close-up comedy all the way back, get in his car and drive to work. What's he going to be doing in 3 years' time? You're going to be paying to see him. Okay? You're going to be paying to see him. That's how it's done, Laugh Mates. Okay? So what we do is we get that flying time. It's vitally important that we get that flying time up. So the 2 types of humour is the joke, and the other is the truth experience. Now, the idea with the truth experience is to pop it down into what we call the truth experience file, to write that truth experience down. Something funny that's happened to you, jot it down. See, humour basically, the very essence about humour is making people feel good. See, there's a big difference, and we'll talk quite a lot about that when you have a look at the handout there. The big difference, you might ask yourself, why is it that currently there's only one university in the country and the first university in the world? Why is that the case? Why is it that people aren't taking humour seriously? I can't figure it out myself. But I can tell you a history of why it's the case. See, the moment we laugh, we're liberated. Laughter liberates us from our fears, our frustrations, our dogma. It's a liberating process. And what we're going to do is we're going to do that again right now for no reason. We're just going to laugh. You're just going to follow me. Here we go. Try this one. Fantastic. Now, what I'm suggesting you do is that you have a place at home called your laughing place. Okay? And that laughing place is your speaking place, and it's your place to have fun. All right? Now, in this laughing place, put photos of your children, okay? Because this is what we call our comedy consciousness book. Our comedy consciousness book is the final process for being able to create laughter. We write down all the jokes we know, all the stories we know, all the saving lines we know on our comedy consciousness book. So you've got your joke file, you've got your truth humour journal, and you've got your comedy consciousness book. This slips into your pocket here, and just before you go into a meeting, you open it up. You might look at a photo of your mum, because that always makes me feel good. Just to feel good, to get that inspiration, to feel in, then you walk in, oh, that joke could work perfect here. Run it through your mind, look for the opportunity in the meeting or in the presentation, and throw the joke in. Okay? So it's not that difficult, laugh mates. It's really not that hard. And what you'll find, and this is the exciting part, you will find that when you start to do that, the universe will conspire to make you a funny person. Okay? I'll back it in. I remember when I first opened the university back in 1973, I was doing a radio interview for the ABC. And the journalist at the ABC said, "Do you really believe that people can develop a sense of humour? Do you really believe that somebody can learn to laugh at themselves?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "There's lots of books that have been written on the subject." "Oh," they said, "is that right?" And I said, "Yes." Up until that stage, I did not know of one book that had been written on the subject. Not one. I had the first bookshop in the world specialising in humour, comedy and laughter. I opened that up in 1973. And I was searching the world for books on the subject. Would you believe that very night, laugh mates, a chap walked into the university. I'd seen him walk past. He'd never come into the shop. And he had a big box of books. And he said, "Mate," he said, "I like what you're doing here." He said, "We're moving. Would you like this box of books?" And I said, "Yes, please, thank you. Just pop them over there." So he put them over there. I went out, had some tea. I came back, and as I do every night, I put everything away so that when I start in the morning, things are a little bit tidy. I went over and had a look in the box of books, and right on top, not second, but right on top of that box of books, laugh mates, was this one here, Laughter and Liberation. It's the first book ever written on how you go about developing a sense of humour. I'm getting a tear in my eye when I think about this. This book saved my life because it showed me it gave me a perspective that allowed me to stay sane, to stay alive, and to still get a bit of attention and have a bit of fun. I read the book, and my dream was to meet the guy that wrote it, Dr. Harvey Minders. I wanted to find out whether this guy was a stodgy academic or whether he was a fair dinkum bloke with a sense of humour, sense of mindfulness. I represented Australia. I was the first Australian to represent Australia at the 6th International Humour Conference at Arizona State University in 1987. There was 500 people there from 50 different countries. There were 16 Russians there. This is 1987. okay? And all the serious people who had written all the books on the subject I'd had on my shelves. And I'd studied them. I understood their formulas, their techniques, their processes, the sociologists, the anthropologists, the psychologists, and the humorologists. And I met Harvey Minders. And I'm happy to say that he's a beautiful man. So he wrote the book on how to develop the sense of humour. The title of my talk, Laugh Mates, was called Laughter or Slaughter. 1987, Laughter or Slaughter. Concept being is if you take the S off slaughter, what's it spell? Laughter. And if you have that S stand for a sense of humour, and that sense of humour is taught in a classroom, the way a sense of politics is taught, and the way a sense of religion is taught, then kids are going to come out of school with a common sense. They're going to come out of school with a way of being able to communicate with one another through their politics, through their race, through their religion. That's how important it is. And as speakers, I look around the room here. Wow, have we got some storytellers in the room here tonight? Hands up, all the storytellers, please. Pop your hands up. Wonderful. Okay. You're going to change some lives in your lifetime. You're going to change some lives. Just pump a little bit of humour in. You don't need a whole lot. Just pump a little bit of humour in and change those lives. What I want you to do now is just talk to your laugh mates for a couple of moments. Turn to your laugh mates and make a commitment to your laugh mate that you're going to do something. Whatever idea you've got, you're going to do something to put some humour into your life. Just turn to your laugh mates now and make that commitment, please. Thank you, thank you. What's your commitment, sir?
A laughing room in the house.
Thank you. What's your commitment, sir?
To laugh a lot. Yes. 5.
Okay, here's a gentleman, laugh mates. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a gentleman down here who's going to laugh 5 times a day. Studies shows the average child laughs 350 times a day. And we adults, us big serious people, laugh 8 times a day. Who's winning? Okay, who's winning? Who's winning? It's our obligation to be able to train our children with this magical elixir called laughter. So, we want to know some techniques. One technique that we teach at the university is what we call prepared spontaneity. In the theatre, they call it structured improvisation. So what you do is you have a series of jokes, and you'll find it in the handout here. You have a series of jokes, you have a series of what we call roving pieces, truth experiences, and then you've got your content over here, your serious content, okay? Now, there's humour written within your serious content, of course. Now, but if that humour's not working, then you do a transition line from that to your serious jokes. Like the 90-year-old man who could laugh at himself. He was 90 years of age, and he had been 90 years of age for 12 months, and he could laugh at himself. He said, I'm 90 years of age and I can make love almost every day. Almost on Monday, almost on Tuesday. And women, I'd like to pay tribute to all you women out there who spend all day down at the hairdressers, and the hairdresser works very hard to make your hair look great, makes you look like you've looked sensational, you've got out of bed, you spent all day there. 8 hours later, you pay them $400 and they make you look like you've just got out of bed in the morning. And kids playing spacemen. When we were kids, we used to play cowboys. I saw this little kid the other day in his spacesuit, and he was right up with it. I walked up, I said, bang, bang, you're dead. He said, zip, zip, you're sterile. What can you do with, So what you do is you have a series of jokes that you just throw in to build the audience back up again and then go back into your serious message. Okay? Very important that we do that. So let's just call out the steps. What's the first step? Humour walk. Second step? Write it down. Very good. Third step? Say that again. Review it. Fantastic. Review it. Yes. Add the formula. Give the man a cigar. Add the formula. What's the next? A little bit of preparation, a little bit of practice. Laugh, mates. See, basically, humour's about making people feel good. And we've got to know the difference between positive humour and negative humour. The reason why there's only one university in the world, back in the 17th century, see, what I do is I study laughter, I study humour, and I study comedy. 3 different sciences. What we need to understand is why people laugh. There's many, many serious theories on why people laugh, just as there's many techniques on how to make them laugh. Stan Laurel said, I know how to make people laugh, but I don't know why they laugh. Now, I figure if you know why people laugh and you know how to make them laugh, you're going to be able to make them laugh a lot better if you know why they laugh. So I study the books on laughter. And in the 16th century, a fellow called Thomas Hobbes, brilliant philosopher, came up with a theory which he calls the superiority theory. He said that we laugh when we see somebody slip on a banana skin. We feel superior to that person. You bloody idiot. We laugh because we feel superior to that person. Now, believe it or not, there's 100 theories on laughter, and I've got 100 books that highlight those 100 theories. But that one theory was picked up by the religious organisations, by the communities in the 16th, 17th century, and was put forward for the whole reason of laughter. It got so bad that if a woman 10 years later walked down the street and she had a baby in her pram, she had to hold her head down, because if she saw something funny and laughed, everybody said, you have committed a sin. They actually came up with the sin theory of laughter. They said it was a sin to laugh. And of course, in those days, they were burning women at the stake because they showed a little sense of creativity or whatever. Now, this is still with us. The reason being is that people haven't yet learnt the techniques of knowing the difference between positive humour and negative humour. Okay? In other words, going for the jocular vein, not the jugular vein. Now, in the handout there, I spend quite a little bit of time explaining the difference between positive humour and negative humour. It's very important. There's an old saying, the worst joke at the right time is better than the best joke at the wrong time. You see, what we have to do is we have to be able to develop our sense of humour, but we also have to develop our sensitivity to the people that we're talking to. Because we've all got our own fears and our own phobias that a joke can trigger and make us react in uncomfortable ways. Okay? And when I say we've all got jokes, I know we've all got jokes. I know Winnow over there's got a joke. Come up and tell us your joke, Winnow. Give him a round of applause, please, laugh mates.
I had to take my dog to the vet the other day. Wasn't looking good, and the vet said I'd better have a look at him, and he picked the vet dog up and he held him for a minute or two. He looked at me and he said, I'm afraid I'm going to have to put this dog down. And I said, why? And he said, it's heavy.
Thank you, Winston. The word, that positive joke, positive joke, positive joke. And that's a wonderful routine that he's working on there too. I've got a brother of mine. He's a very funny fella, my brother. He's got a factory up in Brisbane and he employs 50 people. He's a kleptomaniac, my brother, but he's taking things for it. He has 50 people up in Brisbane working for him, and one of the people he works for him is a maniac klepto. He walks backwards into places and leaves things. Wish I had 100 jokes like that. Unfortunately, I've got 1,000. Saving line. He's got 50 people working for him. He went to work the other day. It's his birthday. He's 50 years of age. He didn't get one birthday card. Not one. He felt very bad. Not one birthday card. He said to his secretary, he said, Miss Jones, he said, gosh, he said, I'm devastated. I didn't get one birthday card. Would you like to come and have a drink with me? Oh, she said, sir, I'd love to. So they go down to the hotel. He had a few drinks. He'd never seen her like this. She started to look pretty good to him. Had a few more drinks and he felt even better. He said, look, Miss Jones, he said, look, 50 people, I didn't get one birthday card. Would you like to come out with me? Oh, she said, sir, why don't you come back to my place? Well, he said, I'll be in that, don't worry. So they go back to her place. She said, make yourself comfortable. So he sat down, took off his coat, took off his tie, had a few more drinks and he felt even better. She said, look, sir, she said, I'm going in the bedroom to put on something more comfortable. If I'm not out in 5 minutes, I want you to come in and get me. Well, he said, I'll be in that, don't worry. She went to the bedroom, closed the bedroom door. He sat there like this. Tick-tock, 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 tick-tock. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He jumped up, threw off all his clothes and raced into the bedroom, and there was all his office staff singing, happy birthday to you. Now, I've been telling that joke for probably 40 years. You don't need many jokes, laugh mates. You only need half a dozen jokes. That's all you need. You only need half a dozen jokes that work for you. Jokes that you're comfortable with. Okay? Jokes that you're happy with. Jokes that you know are going to work. So we practice this technique of positive humour. We practice this technique of prepared spontaneity. Being able to move backwards and forwards from our processes. The most important thing that we practice is we get into the habit of turning our ideas into income. Turning our ideas into income. That's where the checkbook comes in. Popping those ideas down and developing what we call multiple sources of income from your creativity, from your natural source, which is pumping down all the time. This is a habit. This is a 21st century habit. This is the dawn of the third millennium, laugh mates. Okay, the 21st century, the 20th century, times have changed. This is a skill that we need if we're going to survive. As I say, the bottom line is, the concept is what we call business show. There's no business world anymore. There's no show business world anymore. Both those worlds have married, and we all now live in a world of business show. And if we can't show our business, we have to get out of business. And a woman who really had a business show attitude was the attractive woman who had been married 4 times. She had 4 husbands. Her first husband was a banker. Her second husband was a movie producer. Her third husband was a beautician. Her fourth husband was a mortician. Now, you might say, well, where's the plan for that? 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready, and 4 to go. So what we're talking about here is developing our business show aspect. And I look around the room here and I can see some business show people. So laughter and humour is about making people feel good. And feeling good in this hectic world that we live in is not an easy thing to do, laugh mates, with the way things are happening on a regular basis. So sometimes we have weeks or days where we're down, we're frustrated. Anyone had a reasonably tough week this week? Just pop your hands up, laugh mates, if you had a tough week. There's a lady over there, the lady over there. Would you come down the front here, please? Come straight down. Give her a big round of applause, please, laugh mates. Big round of applause. Let's just come straight up here, that's it. Keep the round of applause going, that's it. Straight up here. So humour Humour Laugh Mates is about making people feel good. That's the key thing. What's your name?
Kirsty.
Okay. What has happened this week that has been a tough week for you?
Everything. Yeah, I delivered my first keynote in front of a group, and I moved, thank you, and I've relocated from Perth to Sydney, so it's just, a lot of things.
Okay, so one of the things that we need to do to make people feel good, and we want to make Kirsty feel good today, so on the count of 3, Laugh Mates, on the count of 3, you ready for this, Kirsty? Turn around, face your group. On the count of 3, I want you to jump out of your seats and give Kirsty here a standing ovation. On the count of 3, a big standing ovation. 1, 2, 3. Hey, Kirsty! Ho, ho, ho! Wow! More! Wow, wonderful! Wonderful! Oh, sensational! Hey, yes! She said that worked. Thank you very much, Laugh Mates. Thank you, Kirsty. Thank you. So that's what we have to do, Laugh Mates. We've got to make people feel good. Now, I'm going to ask you a little question. In life, we have to ask for what we want. We're all aware of that, aren't we? We have to ask for what we want. Is there anyone else in the room who would like a standing ovation? Okay, there's a gentleman. Give him a standing ovation. Standing ovation, yes. Wonderful. Fantastic. Thank you. And while you're standing, Laugh Mates, I'm wrapping up, so would you give me a standing ovation? Hey! Louder, louder, come on. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Put laughter into your life, Laugh Mates. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing my dream. And I can imagine the lives that you're going to change in the next 20, 30 years' time. Thanks a lot.